Imagine building a new life in a new country, finding a job, making friends, creating a home, and then suddenly being told you might have to pack up and leave. That's the reality facing 1.2 million temporary residents in Canada as their status is set to expire in 2025. But here's a big question: will they actually leave, or will Canada face a surge in undocumented residents? Let's get into this complex and emotional topic. While Canada is home to over 1.2 million temporary residents, including international students, work permit holders, and others who contribute significantly to the economy. From staffing restaurants to filling critical healthcare gaps, they've been essential to keeping Canada running. And this is a fact no one can deny. But here's a ticking clock. By 2025, many of these permits will expire, and technically, these individuals are expected to leave. Yet, history tells us that not everyone will. In fact, Canada has struggled for years to manage temporary residency transitions effectively. For example, between 2017 and 2022, an estimated 75,000 individuals stayed in Canada after their permits expired. And that's a massive gap, raising questions about how many will actually leave in 2025. Let's get into why is this happening. So let's break it down as why are so many people in this position to begin with. The number one reason, the immigration backlog. Canada's immigration system has been overwhelmed for the last few years. Because permanent residency applications often take years, leaving many temporary residents in limbo. They're stuck waiting for decisions, unsure of the future. Along with that, the second reason is misaligned expectations, where many temporary residents, especially international students, arrive in Canada thinking they are on a clear pathway to PR. But when it comes to reality, only a fraction of them actually qualify. Canada has marketed itself as a land of opportunity, but for many, the door does not open as widely as they would hope. And the third reason is Canada's dependency on temporary workers. And this is something that we have to face it. Canada relies heavily on temporary residents. And another fact that no one can deny. This fell labor shortages in agriculture, retail, construction, and technology. Businesses depend on them so much so that a sudden mass departure could disrupt entire industries, which is currently happening here and there. And it's a classic case of mixed messages. We need you to work here, but we might not let you stay. Earlier, the messaging was opposite. Now, let's talk about the emotional toll. Imagine being an international student who has spent 4 years earning a Canadian degree only to find out you don't meet the criteria for permanent residency. Because every province has its own set of criteria for you to be qualified. Or a work permit holder who has built a life here, your kids are in school and you have bought a car, maybe even a home, and now you're facing uncertainty because work permit holders are still eligible to buy a home here. Let's take an example of a student who has come to Canada. She got a great job, her employer loves her, but her PR application is stuck in processing. Whereas her work permit expires in 2025, should she leave her career, her friends, and everything she's built here behind? These are not just numbers, these are real lives. The stress is unimaginable. Let's understand what Canada is doing about all these. The Canada's government is aware of the issue, but the solutions so far have been mixed. In 2023, Immigration Canada announced plans to reduce both permanent and temporary immigration levels. The goal is to decrease PR admissions from 465,000 to 365,000 by 2027 and reduce temporary residents to about 5% of the population. Which sounds good, but here's the challenge. How do you enforce such reductions without harming industries that depend on these workers? And what happens to the people already here? And the government has already pledged to improve tracking and enforcement, but critics argue it's easier said than done. For years, Canada has relied on an outdated system that assumes temporary residents leave within 30 days of their visa expiry. And clearly, that's not happening. This isn't just about immigration policies, it's about what kind of country Canada wants to be. If enforcement ramps up, we could see mass deportations, disrupting families and communities, of course. On the other hand, if Canada turns a blind eye, it risks losing control of its immigration system and creating a surge of undocumented residents. Then there's the economic impact. Industries like agriculture, technology, and healthcare are already struggling with labor shortages. And losing a significant portion of the workforce could create ripple effects that hurt all Canadians, and people will start realizing about it very shortly. So, now what's likely to happen? Let's look at some scenarios. The first scenario, many will leave. Some temporary residents may decide this uncertainty is not worth it and voluntarily return back to their home countries. And if we look at a second scenario, extensions and loopholes, we might see a surge in temporary visa extensions or individuals finding ways to stay under different programs. And in scenario 3, which is not likely a favorable one, where people try to overstay, and this is the most controversial scenario, if a significant number of residents overstay their visas, it could strain Canada's immigration enforcement and create social and economic challenges. And realistically speaking, we will likely see a combination of all these three scenarios that's going to happen. And the key question is whether Canada can manage this transition effectively without causing undue harm to the people involved. Let's understand what does this mean for you. And if you are a temporary resident, this is your wake-up call. Now is the time to start planning. Understand your options. Are there pathways to extend your stay legally? For that, you have to consult an immigration expert. Don't just look for options on Facebook or any sort of a social media advice. Go to the experts for a thorough review of your application. Be prepared for the worst. Have a backup plan in case you need to leave. And advocate for change where temporary residents are a vital part of Canada's economy. And speaking up can help shape their policies that are fair and inclusive. And this is a pivotal moment for Canada's immigration system and the people it affects. The stakes are high not just for 1.52 million temporary residents but for the country as a whole. So, what do you think? Should Canada tighten its rules to ensure temporary residents leave? Or should it find ways to integrate more of them into its society? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this discussion insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in depth conversations about Canada, immigration, and the stories shaping our future. And thank you for watching Great Tales.